Howdy, listeners. I forget how I opened this podcast.
I mean, that wasn't it.
I don't know, maybe. This is the political science podcast, science fiction podcast, where we use fiction to like explore political topics. Yeah, no, it's just been episodes have been slow lately. That's just because I'm working on my book. I'm gonna try to get it out this summer. I may or may not have a website made by the time this is edited out, so I will put that in the description if it is ready. We shall see. For this episode, we're going to be talking about whether or not the Na'vi from Avatar are screwed.
Yeah. Are we gonna define that
Uh, well, okay, so like,
just generally?
yeah, the Avatar series, by James Cameron's Avatar, not the lauded animated cartoon on Nickelodeon, the live action movies that James Cameron made and make like $2 billion a piece for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of them. They're okay. They have their moments. I think if they maybe weren't as big as they were, I'd feel a lot better about them.
My original theory was that they weren't gonna do as good in sequel terms compared to the original, because the original came out in 2009 and it was the first 3D movie ever made. So I thought the novelty would wear off eventually, but apparently people like the sequel just as much because they both.
Yeah, I had that same thinking.
I was gonna say they both 2 billion,
Yeah. Yeah, they're quite successful.
highest grossing film of 2022, um, up against like 3 Marvel movies. So, and good Marvel movies like Doctor Strange and uh, Black Panther
Yeah.
and Thor Ragnarok. So
Yeah, it's but yeah, for those of you who don't know, it's a series based around a guy who essentially Earth's found this alien world where they're mining a bunch of resources from, and they send this one guy to the world where the Navi lived. I think it's called Pandora because the naming scheme of this movie, these movies are not like super clever. Like it was, yeah, it's Pandora, like Pandora's box, because a lot of bad things are going to happen from trying to open it up and take what's inside. Then there's the I think the mineral they were trying to get in the first one was called unobtainium, which, yeah, I don't think the sequel was as bad for that,
I
but
think
still.
I think this is like one of the um only movies that I think me and Kyle have actually like went out and watched together
Yeah, I shit. This was the
in
last time we
theaters.
saw each other in person, actually, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which sucks. We need to do something about that eventually.
And last time I checked, that theater's still shut down, is it not?
Yeah, they did they did a like a comedian show about this this YouTuber essentially. Who's like a local guy. He did like a show there, but they haven't opened it up to regular theaters. But I've seen like I drive past it semi regularly, so I've seen like guys doing work inside. So it's still it's moving along.
Yeah, so I'll be back.
But yeah, continuing on with but yeah, so the guy who's the star of Avatar, I didn't look up his name. I can't really bother to remember. But he ends they end up hooking the people, like the human people, into cloned Navi bodies because Pandora's atmosphere is hostile to humans. So they put people into these cloned bodies of the alien Navi, and they're able to wander around them, and those bodies are called avatars. So one guy decides to he goes through the plot of the first one. He turns against the humans and starts fighting with the Navi, and he ends up foregoing his human body, and he is just a an avatar in the second one. Yeah, then in the second one they like uh have to save the whales of the alien whales who have a chunk of like stuff in them that like makes people immortal, more or less. And the third one they're making, they're gonna have a Fire Nation because that's what we're doing.
I mean, it's called Fire and Ash. I don't know if there's a Fire Nation. I'm gonna assume so at this point. Just
Make the comparisons more obvious, Jim. Just yeah, whatever. Anyway,
you asked me how screwed the Navi are, and I'm gonna assume by the naming scheme of the next film, they're pretty much cooked.
but yeah, I guess yeah, no, but yeah, no. Apparently, in the next one, they're going to be talking to volcano people. So I don't know.
I mean, you could literally tell me anything of the like that you've heard about this upcoming film, and I wouldn't be able to refute it because I haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah.
So,
Um, but yeah, it's a series that is it is sort of political on its surface because it's it's very much like a metaphor for colonial indigenous conflict on here on Earth, and it's in James Cameron's plot is very much on the side of like you never should stop fighting the colonials because they can't be trusted to make like a peaceful deal. So there it's yeah, he's very much on the side of like just tell the colonials to fuck off. So like I will give him this, like the message behind the movie isn't like halfwaying it, which is what a lot of more uh like typical examples of this genre will kind of lean to. But as of right now, it's like especially since like the series is allegedly halfway through, whereas like if this was like a like in Dances with Wolves or whatever. Yeah, no, Dances with Wolves is a good example because this kind of rips off a lot of it. Yeah, a lot of people just say, "Oh, okay, this is a rip off of Dances with Wolves. This is a rip off of Pocahontas," and yeah, kind of. Yeah, in like Dances with Wolves, like there's this entire conceit to the entire movie that like we're like the guy's becoming closer and he recognizes what's happening to what is it? Is it the Sioux in Dances with Wolves? I can't remember. It's been a while. Um but
I want to
he
say the Dakota,
but yeah, the conceit is like
Lakota.
okay, this is a thing that's going to be terrible, but it's going to happen. Whereas in Avatar, that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. So the goal
Yeah,
here is to sort of like take a look at like the evidence and like see if See if we did, like, see if between the two of us we think that the Navi really have a fighting chance.
There was a right wing media personality. I want to say Ben Shapiro, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it was Ben or not. Um, who made a big fuss over um, Avatar. I think it was the first one, stating like, "How are you gonna claim racism when they're blue aliens in space?" The guy couldn't like draw a metaphor or like a similarity between like indigenous people and blue space aliens. So
Yeah. Although Ben Shapiro is notably, yes, he absolutely does not know what a metaphor is. It's why he's such a bad writer and why he doesn't like, why he can't stand rap music, because it's like 90% metaphors, and like the presence of metaphors just like rattles his little brain, and it confuses him. So he just like despises rap music for that reason. And it's definitely that reason and not the reason that he's just a fucking racist.
or the fact that he sat there and like picked apart the Barbie movie for 43 minutes.
Yeah. No, I have yeah, I don't like that guys who are allegedly doing like actual, like, if I was doing an actual news show, it seems stupid if I was reviewing a movie, right? Which
Yeah.
is like like vaguely what like the Daily Wire or whatever the fuck it is called is like supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a proper news show, and it's like, why are you reviewing a movie?
Also, we are not news
No, no, we
before.
talk about it, but we're like an edutainment channel. Yeah, and we do movie reviews mostly. It's just like this is like we always get onto these tangents, and like this is a way to like expand on some of those tangents we do in those movies.
Yeah.
But
I think I've brought up Avatar,
yeah,
at least in the cinema cast at some point in
oh
time.
yeah. There is also like the fact I will bring up that like James Cameron has said some stuff that's like at dip to speak as diplomatically, which is maybe something beyond what he really deserves. Some of the stuffs he said about like the comparison have been insensitive toward real indigenous peoples. Like, I think there's a line where he's talking he was doing he was like producing, or maybe he was making like just straight up making a documentary about it might have been I can't I think it was the Sioux. I forget who it was specifically about, but and he was pointing out that like how modern First Nations somehow are sometimes struggle are in a position of struggling and are struggling in some places. And he says something to the effect of if those people could see the way that could see the state of their people today, they wouldn't have stopped fighting, which isn't yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I just like zoned out there for a second.
Okay. So he said that like in regards to like I think it was the Sioux, that if the Sioux could see the state of struggle that like a lot of their descendants are in today, they would have fought harder. Um
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Fair enough.
it can be somewhat dismissive of the modern, like some people did give him shit for that because it was viewing it as disrespectful to the modern people who are still around, and like dismissing the successes that it came across as dismissive of the successes of those people who are very much still around today.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and he said stuff like that that isn't necessarily which is I'm not here to I'm not at all like I'm saying it diplomatically, but I'm not here to like defend him. Uh, I'm probably on the side that it's comes across as a little disrespectful. There is also some issues that people have had of like this use like using a bunch of indigenous stories, but like having somewhat limited interaction from those people in real life. Which, to be fair, there are several very talented actors who have been involved with this. It's just that sometimes those have been they're maybe like a couple at a time, and he has dismissed. I think it, especially in the first one, there was some dismissing of like more like he asked for indigenous inspired music and then ended up discounting it for something more Western sounding. Which none of this has too much to do with the episode. I just feel like it's something that should be brought up as like a context. And yeah,
I think for a white man being in this position, I'm assuming James Cameron's white.
yep,
Okay, fair enough. I just got a picture of him. That's definitely white. Uh, it's gonna be a fine line, and of course, like you're gonna have to like reach out to indigenous storytellers and borrow from that a lot.
yeah. Some people, yeah, some, yeah. It's just that some people have brought up that he should have more, give them more influence over it. Which, yeah, I think is probably
Mhm.
fair. But yeah, I guess on to the subject. Just like before we get into it, how are we feeling about the? How are you feeling about the Navi's odds?
Uh, well, considering I've seen this story, um, not great. A lot of cultures that stood in the face of like expansionism into the United States of America, like have definitely not done as well
Yeah,
as they should have, to
yeah,
put it bluntly.
yeah. In in like the similar scenarios that we're like drawing inspiration from here for this, those situations have not turned out super well. It's just yeah, some more and like they've left themselves and like the conflict has left the indigenous peoples often on a side that is leaves them less able to bargain for their own rights and freedoms and resources, which is really a thing here. Um, many and like in the modern like it's left them to a how to put this the methods that through which a lot of victories have been gained in more modern times have often been through exploiting the high minded words of the law of these colonial nations which they are under in order to get some more freedoms. And in those cases where you are able to fully throw off a colonial government, those nations are often left in a very exploitative economic relationship with colonialist. I'd say Western, but that's not entirely. There are other exploitative issues here, but yeah, it's left them in a very exploited position in which they're not able to just assert a fair relationship or equal relationship in power, which would allow them to prosper more effectively. Although, mind you, there are there are several known occasions in which, yes, the people, like the colonized people, do manage to use violence to expel a colonial power, such as what I will say, That's what happened at the end of the first movie. The Navi, and not even like the whole of the Navi, just like a large section of a large tribe on one side of the planet managed to expel the Earth government from Pandora for a brief moment. That obviously didn't end up lasting because eventually uh, Earth comes back with bigger and better guns. But it is something that's happened, and it might happen again. Who knows? Maybe it is leading to a scenario in which the Navi will be able to get a more total victory and able to have sovereignty over their own planet.
I'd like to like talk quickly on the utilization of um violence
Mm-hmm.
in this situation because they use examples of this to justify the further destruction of indigenous populations at this point. And I think we saw that in the film
Mm-hmm.
where they use this small outpost destruction to justify bringing in a larger expansion of military force to deal with indigenous populations. Like any small provocation,
Mm-hmm.
provocative.
Yep,
What word am I looking for here?
that was it. Provocation.
Provocation is going to justify further violence when it shouldn't. They're at a huge disadvantage. The only advantage I would say that they have is it's an off-world fight for people of Earth to have to uh expend resources to get to Pandora to be able to stop the violence.
Yeah, it is a very big deal for them to get more people to Pandora. It's a lot of resources, and you gotta and like after say you do knock out an entire like excursion force, uh then that guarantees that yes, if you need to get like a new one, it's going to have to be so much bigger than the last one, and it just steadily gets more and more expensive until I don't know, do you eventually decide that oh yeah, it's just not worth it? It's sort of what happened with Vietnam, where they're just they keep needing to send more and more guys, and it's not making any progress. So eventually, the Americans just give up.
Sure.
Yeah, mind you, that method leaves millions of people dead. So it's maybe not the nicest, most convenient way of getting this done, but it is a option, and it does work.
And I think we see a lot of what I was just saying happen within Vietnam too, where uh, people use the violence being pushed to the colonizers to justify uh, more mass killings,
Mhm.
all in the uh, end goal of exploiting a planet, I guess, in this scenario for resources. Like, I think colonial expansion into Canada, North America, I think it had a larger success rate due to indigenous populations, allowing white people to expand and put in outposts into into the country, which allowed colonialism to effectively take root, and ultimately was a downfall to indigenous populations.
Yeah, yeah, this is a really good point to bring up, which is something we haven't really seen in Avatar. Is that like colonialism doesn't get as far as it gets without some without some peaceful interaction with the indigenous population. There are a lot of in in within all these bad stories we have, there are examples long lengthy examples of peaceful interactions between colonial people and indigenous peoples. Um and yeah, eventually we get to this larger point where where these indigenous peoples have been helping out colonials, um and maybe there was an understanding that by helping out there would be some benefit to that particular people that was helping out, and those benefits, especially in our example, like our Canadian American examples, um those benefits end up going away because it's being driven by this force on the home, back in the colonial capitals. Okay, we just want their stuff, but they're never going to have anything resembling a real hold in the area without having some sort of without having some sort of peaceful relation with the indigenous peoples. Like, yep, there's we often pin some of these disasters on the military, but there's very much a driving force behind this, behind the violent colonial expansion on the in the home fronts, in parliaments and congress and such. But if you're just speaking on a military standpoint, it's often entirely reasonable to have a an understanding between the indigenous peoples and the colonial military, because until there is a war declared, you don't want to be fighting. So you just come to a peaceful agreement at times. And what break ends up breaking a lot of
Mhm.
those peaceful agreements is force from the like back home, very much. um and then even
I guess,
there are examples in the Black Hills with the Sioux, and such, where like they made a perfectly reasonable agreement between several First Nations about okay, here's where you can live, you'll get these and these rights. And then they find gold in indigenous territory, and then that deal goes out the toilet because there was something more around there.
gold,
Yep.
oil.
Yep. Unobtainium. But yeah. And this isn't
Um,
necessary.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, when I don't think, in this scenario, they set up, specifically, Pandora. They don't have currently, that I'm aware of in the series, I could be wrong when I'm saying this, a way to secure the moon, right?
No. Yeah. Um
The, Na'vi.
uh Say again.
In the first film, the way that, uh, Scully, I wanna say his name
Yeah.
is? The main character, goes to planet is via the avatar body,
Hmm.
but his actual body is sitting on a moon off the planet. So the military force of the humans currently own the moon off of Pandora, and that's their outpost.
Um,
So like the Na'vi can't secure the moon to stop other avatars from or other military forces from getting to Pandora,
I mean,
right?
I think they actually do have they have just been having planet side bases this entire time. I don't know if there's like a local space like presence in the area, but yeah, I think your point remains. It's like the Na'vi don't have any way to like prevent more humans from showing up. Like the Na'vi would need to like get
Mhm.
like anti air weapons in order to like prevent like future landings, which is not on the table right now. Which yeah is the big struggle here. Like we're gonna yeah, I guess let's talk about it because like the big struggle here is like the Navi do not have access to like reliable access to like high tech machines, which isn't like I will point out isn't necessarily the military advantage disadvantage we crack it up to be. Um Eventually like there will be a point at which like the Navi will run out of bullets. They won't be able to fuel any machines they take. But the Navi like technologically inferior forces do still defeat technologically superior forces. It's reasonably
Sure.
common. The issue is like logistics eventually, and whether or not
Mhm.
they're willing to put up with the significant death toll that comes from facing down these technologically superior forces. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. The question, like the big question of warfare, is not usually often that uh there is a that there's like a difference in arms capability between the two forces. It's often a question of logistics and who has the better logistical advantages, because like
Mhm.
because that's going to decide who wins the war in the long run. It's why every war presentation has always started with, oh, we'll have this done in a week, because that's the only way any war ever turns out good, is if someone manages to knock it out in a week. And it doesn't happen all
Yeah.
that often. Um, and like in the examples where it does happen, uh, the encroaching military force is like massively overpowered. Like the scale is like, you may think the Navi has it bad, but it's not within the scale of the way like that would be easy to take down.
Yeah.
And it is possible that like the big if the not especially if like the Navi manages to if there ended up to be a global unification of the Navi to fight the humans would be screwed. Like I think like even in real life, like what like give me a like if I were to ask you um in what year do you think that, assuming like all the First Nations of North America were to unite, would they have been able to be defeated by the North Americans easily? Like what year do you think that would be?
Probably the 1700s.
I
Like, as soon as they step foot onto, like, North America, put a knife in Christopher Columbus' heart. They don't get their foothold.
Yeah, but I think like I think the year at which like the threat of like general like an indigenous coalition like teaming up wouldn't have been threatening is like the late 1800s.
Mhm.
yeah, because like I think even like the late 1800s, if like all of the First Nations had like teamed theoretically teamed up, and I'm not like it's a go back to the earlier conversation. I don't feel like it's reasonable to like place a blame on these like this hindsight 2020 blame on the people like the First Nations of the past about like not resisting hard enough because while like yes they it would have been like they did, a lot of these deals they ended up making that they thought would preserve their people did not uh get honored and turn out well. I can hardly blame those people for taking those deals. And honestly, like often when those deals are taken, they are in a position where like the person they were making the deal with genuinely thought that that would be a good that that was going to be the way things were and that that was going to be honored. And that ended up changing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think
Yes.
like I don't know what the word for it I'm looking for is, but like a general rebellion of like the First Nations against the colonial governments. I think the year at which that stops being like threatening is like the I'm not saying they win in like 18 if like that sort of thing happens in like 1870, but it's going to be bad.
Mhm.
I think in that scenario that ends up being like something more like what happens in Palestine or Ireland back in the day where like you get like these incredibly violent struggles where it's ends up being a big clusterfuck because like they're trying to get something that's fundamentally unreasonable to the people who already live there, which yeah, um not having like this is a struggle of many peoples. It's like they don't have the resources needed to permanently expel the people, take like putting them in a bad spot. But that doesn't mean that like they're going to go down easy, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be a yeah. Just because you're not going to win doesn't mean that you're going to let the other guy win.
Mhm.
Because yeah, because like I mean, when you get down to it, like sentient beings aren't entirely logical. Like even if you even if like probably falsely like either way, you you're not you're not always dealing with like what's going to be the logical thing to do. You're dealing with what's like someone who wants to do and like what they can maybe think they can manage to do. And honestly, sometimes you don't want to give someone something because you feel like it's the wrong thing to do and you're just going to resist anyway even though it's going to be a bad idea. And it's not going to end well for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. It's why people sometimes strap dynamite to their chest and blow themselves up in the city square.
Mhm.
It, yeah, it's not the most effective thing, but it does send a message. But yeah,
Or
an example of go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, one of the on the side of the colonialisms at this point in time, like, you've got like, if you have a really, really strong resistance, then you have to justify desperate message, like measures to people, and that becomes a lot harder when there's humanity to it instead of like just carpet bombing or like mass destruction. Um, you need to be able to justify that to whatever power is above you, I guess. Power of opinion um, matters a lot, especially in like year long conflicts.
And I'm kind of the opinion that like people generally don't will not go after like a lot of like there's enough people that like will not pursue an action that results that is just like like un like un like what's the word I'm looking for? That is just like unmistakably genocidal. Like, um, as much as like there are some pundits who are just going to be like, oh, we need to uh deal with the problem with Middle Eastern violence by like glassing the whole region. There's just as many people who are like, no, we're not going to do that. Because secretly, I think a certain amount of like, we're not going to annihilate million, tens of billion, like a billion people just because they're being uppity. I think on some level,
Mhm.
some people, I don't know if it's because they're like fearing for their eternal souls, or it's because a lot of some of them know that they're wrong, but or that they're just not willing to. And then yeah, then there's also this counterplay between like people that, like want to like glass an entire continent, and people who are just like, okay, I'm a fan of my country. I want to do what's best for it, but I'm not gonna like. I have a line. I'm gonna. I'm not gonna. I have a line. I'm not gonna cross. I want to do what's best for my people, but I'm not. I'm not gonna do something that's gonna make me think I'm a monster. Some sides, one side wins out, but yeah, yeah.
And
Um,
once again, this
Go
is
ahead.
all based on history.
Yeah,
So
and like,
hindsight's always like
mhm,
2020.
yeah, and yeah, and like, yeah, for every guy that's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna solve my problem by murdering like 3 million people. There's a guy that's just like, no, I'm not gonna turn the key that's gonna launch a nuclear warhead. I fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna do that.
Hopefully.
Just period. Um,
So far. Mhm.
yeah. So far,
It's only March.
yeah. No, I love that we've had to. I love that we've had to repurpose the how days until Kissinger's dead clocks to days until Trump's dead clocks.
Oh geez.
But I mean, as to like the actual question of like, do the Navi have a shot? I think maybe. Like, especially like if they get like some like them getting some industry at this point wouldn't necessarily be a strange thing. Like they are strictly intelligent beings. They could
Mhm.
probably manage it. But I think that's the one thing they're missing is they don't have those weapons that will be able to like prevent them from ever getting air like on the ground. They need like they need like a bit some big guns is the thing that needs to change here.
Yeah. There might be a point in time in the movie that we see uh, sympathy towards the Navi people from like humans that are willing to supply
Oh yeah.
weapons to the Navi eventually,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and like there's
Um,
some humans that have sided with the Navi already. There were some humans in the second one. But and there's always sympathizers just in general. But
mhm. The way I'd want to look at this is like how well known is the Navi plight on Earth at this point in time. Like maybe they're more hush hush about this um, before declaring like all out war.
yeah, that may be the bitch of it, honestly, is just that like here on Earth you can get anti-colonialist propaganda made pretty easy because like 99% of the world has cell phones, and it's really easy to get those pictures of like I don't know, pick your horrifying example. Like anti-colonialist propaganda can get out there pretty easily. Um and it's not ever going to be easy to stop. But in the Navi situation, like that's not getting to Earth if they can help it. Like some people might tell that
Yeah,
story, but that's like, oh, there's like maybe 20 people total that like can tell like could maybe tell the other side of the story. Um and they're not like sending
Yeah.
journalists back and forth at this point because it's just like too long of a journey.
So it'll be interesting. I think 2025 December the new movie is supposed to come out, and I think it's gonna take a very big turn from like guerrilla warfare being done in the on Pandora to something way worse. I think like on the other end of this um I think I've talked about the film before, but I really liked District 9 for its reimagining of the scenario where instead of aliens being the colonized or the colonizers, the aliens were the colonized and they were like put into ghettos essentially. So if you're looking for another film
I I should watch it
that tackles the
eventually.
other end of the spectrum, it's really good. I liked it. Um, would you classify this movie um, as a white savior movie?
Um yeah, I'm kind of saying a yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, with like caveat that like it's uh that like I don't think that like I think like the Sully's his name, but he's like he's so ingrained in this that like he's not trying to like he's not doing like a bunch of stuff that like white saviors do, of like he's not trying to transform the culture. He's very much becoming, to pardon the phrase, going native, which yeah, unfortunate turn of phrase sometimes, but like that is I think that if anything that's the difference, is that he's like truly becoming or trying to become one of those people. But yeah, it
Hmm.
is, I would say it is. It's maybe not the worst example, but it is yes. Yeah, I feel like that's probably say true.
I should I don't know how many people understand the term white savior movie. Like uh, Dances with Wolves is a good example of it, where they make uh, indigenous populations just completely inept that they need like a white person to come in and save them. So that's where the uh, term stems from.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, it's yeah, the dictionary definition would be something like uh a white man goes into a indigenous civilization and like helps them achieve their goals, but like teaching them some of his ways, which I think is
mhm.
the worst of it. And I saw a really bad example of it the other day. I watched a movie called Pathfinder.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's they basically stole the plot from like this 1978 Norwegian movie, which I think is a lot better. Probably I haven't seen it, but so the setting of it is like, what if it was we had like a grim and gritty Vikings versus First Nations movie, except
Sure.
yeah, except the First Nations don't actually get to do anything because Carl Urban does all of the work on their side. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, no. The bows and arrows are like totally ineffective, because the Viking armor is so strong. No, it's a bad movie.
Did Viking did Vikings notoriously have armor?
They had armor. I just don't know that they consistently wore it.
Okay.
Uh,
I was like, I don't know if that would have been like chainmail.
It was
like,
there.
generation, so, like, armor can arrows heads still pierce chainmail?
Yep. It's meant to be.
Yeah?
It's meant
Okay.
to help. It's better than not having chainmail,
Mhm.
but you can get through it. But yeah, no, it's also like it's fantasizing this like first contact between the Vikings and I guess the indigenous peoples of Newfoundland. And
Okay.
yeah, and it's oh yeah, that's another pro tip if you don't like if you're making a movie like maybe I'm not like okay, white guy here saying this, but if you don't name the First Nation in the movie, you aren't doing a good job. I just think that's a very
Mhm.
incredibly baseline thing. But yeah, Pathfinder 2007, bad movie.
I'm assuming that would have been based on, first contact between, like, I think it was Eric the Red or
Yeah,
something, and the indigenous population who apparently, like, found Canada way back in, like, before Columbus,
the year 1000, approximately.
approximately.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there, and it's like a probably a period of several years around that time.
Another one apparently is, another film they've, compared it to is Ferngully, which I don't know the plot of.
I still need
But
to
it's
watch
like a children's animated series, so
it. Yeah,
I can't, like, prove the through line there because I have no clue what it's about.
yeah.
So,
No, they but yeah, Pathfinder might have actually been an okay Kyle Cody's called CinemaCast review, but I don't want to watch it again. It's not very good. You know what?
but it's
Just
got Carl Urban in it.
it's 2007 Carl Urban, so he's not big yet. I don't think. Yeah, just watch the 1978 movie of the same name. The setting's completely different. It's based in like pre-Christian Norway. It's kind of it sounds neat. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. I don't have too many other points there.
I think there's like, this is such a multifaceted, like, topic. We could be here for days sitting here trying to compare every single culture to, the 19 or the, 2009 film Avatar, but, like, I guess we'll never really know until it's finished exactly where they're trying to go with it, and, but we have a pretty good, baseline for basically everything, and I'm assuming they're not gonna get into, like, uh, the whole legal side of everything because that would be not the type of movie that we're, uh, often finding ourselves watching, um, and, like, on the civil rights side of the, uh, Pandoran people
But yeah,
yet.
I'm very much of the opinion that the situation on Pandora is going to get worse before it gets better.
No, that's a
Yeah.
pretty fair assumption.
I don't know that they'll lose, but it's not going to be pretty because it never is.
I think my prediction was, they're going to kill off Jake Sully, and then, from killing off Jake Sully, the, lady, made I probably should have sat down and rewatched both the
Yeah,
films before, getting into this topic, but I really didn't want to,
me neither.
do that. And I was gonna make a comment on, the choice of, I think, bipedal humanoid aliens,
Yeah,
within this series. I guess we recently actually were doing, Starship Troopers,
yeah,
but the aliens looked, like, very distinctly different, more bug-like, and, like,
yeah.
they try and strip the humanity away from, like, these bug-type people, and, like, it generally works in terms of, colonialism and the justification of, like, killing them, um,
Yeah.
because like they don't see him as human. So I think there should be an argument made for like we need to step away from the humanity of the sides of things, like, and stop relating like humanity just based on whatever walks on two legs and kind of looks
Yeah.
humanoid at this point in time.
Yeah.
But that's a whole like different can of worms. Like,
Yeah, we could find a Star Trek episode to talk about this pretty good, but that's more of a science-y episode, honestly. But yeah, no, like at a
yeah,
certain point, you need to like if you're dealing with aliens, you need to come up with, like come to the conclusion that like you're eventually gonna find something that doesn't look like us, but is just as like sentient as us. Um, at least in
hmm
theory. But I will state like the one big difference I have between the Na'vi situation and like what happened here on Turtle Island and in South America. I wish I had like a proper indigenous name for South America. If someone has a good one, like send it to me. I will start using it because God knows I would love to stop. I think our continent should have their own name. Is that so
hmm
wrong? But anyway, I think the big difference between like what's happening on Pandora and then what happened here on these continents is that because of the introduction of smallpox, the um the peoples of these continents were like devastated. There is a several cases that have been made that like the world that especially the English walk into when they go out west is something that's vaguely post-apocalyptic where like yeah, it looks abandoned because a lot of people that used to live here passed away and haven't been tending the area, which that's like the world we live in does not exist without like millions of people dying of smallpox and like grandly altering the populations of these areas. Um, if uh, if the indigenous peoples of these continents did have, for whatever reason, a stronger resistance to something like smallpox, we would be dealing with a very different situation. So the fact that like there does not appear to be uh any sort of like non military related mass death among the Navi speaks very differently for how their situation is going to turn out. Because
hmm
as bad as the military stuff does happens, uh, it's probably not near what some of the ecological damage is going to be. Um, and like
it's actually a really good point.
yeah, um, yeah, there was some like purposeful spreading of smallpox to my understanding, but even if none of that happened, the deaths still would have been probably like immeasurable, but like not insignificant. And when disease starts spreading that badly, things like cities and large settlements become less favorable because that disease spreads much easily in there. So you might want to go. So you might want to leave the city and go into some maybe take on a more nomadic lifestyle. Um, I think even I think the Sioux even they had only been on like the Great Plains doing buffalo hunting for like like a few generations. They initially had been more out east, but because the buffalo herds are such like a it's a pretty good life, and it is something that would have been favored because you can spread out a lot more, and it might have been good for a lot of people's health to like spread out like that and start living that sort of nomadic lifestyle. But that being said, there are some ecological disasters that can be caused by action, like deliberate action. I will point to the buffalo, which is something that was deliberately exterminated by I don't know if Canadian government had an explicit policy of doing it, but the American government definitely did. It's possible
Yeah.
Canada might have also been doing it, but I don't know for a fact that's a thing. But like the extinction of the buffalo herds greatly diminishes the ability of a lot of Great Plains people to survive and resist. So that's not like that's really the could be end up being the more damaging thing with the Navi is if the humans just figure out how to do something like that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut off their food sources.
Yeah, or something to that effect.
Starvation and illness is probably the bigger contributing factor to like the destruction of the plains Indian than like probably even military intervention.
But I mean, that's also just on the other hand, like that's not an easy thing to do. You're scarcely presented with that sort of opportunity as easy. I know in Vietnam, like that's what Agent Orange is. Like Agent Orange is like a herbicide. Like it exists they're trying to get rid of all
Mhm.
the forest so that the American troops, the American military can more easily exterminate Vietnamese forces. But it didn't really work for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But the method of just being an underpen monster isn't necessarily the most effective thing on its own. It depends on the scenario. But yeah, those are probably the things to watch out for. And as on to the other end, yeah, we've discussed like it could be difficult to get a propaganda victory for the Navi on your side, but like maybe turning a bunch of colonists isn't necessarily like the strangest thing in the world. It could happen, but like also like on the other end, it as these military excursions from Earth get bigger, there's more resources to capture. So maybe after a while, the Navi just get a hold of like a bunch of anti air guns that are able to like shoot down landing ships as they start approaching. Well, any other points?
No, I think we covered
Yeah.
a wide expanse of topics.
Mhm.
And as I said, we could be here all night just trying to find all the through lines, but I think we've adequately at least talked about the first couple of movies, and I'd be interested in seeing it once a new movie comes out because Fire and Ash ultimately sounds like not a good time. So,
Yeah, as we all are tricked into like going along with us. But yeah. Uh so yeah, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and remember we're not here to explain why it works. We're just here to explain what happened. Goodbye.